came as a result of a necessity, because the local channels didn't exist, because the government channels couldn't deliver what the viewers wanted, and that's why they came about. So this is a natural change in the structure of the way things are, and we shouldn't be worried about that. What we should be worried about, if you're delivering quality product in HD, and if you're delivering in a way and a manner that anybody wants it, whether it's digital, whether it's broadcast, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you're delivering something because a local channel couldn't deliver it, then you're not going to succeed for a long term.
Can I?
Sorry, Dr. Riyad.
I'm sorry, maybe I'll just add to that, why the domestic or local channels did not develop and the pan-Arab channels did develop. I can see one clear reason for it is that regulations. Because in most of the Arab countries, there are no regulations for media. I mean by regulations, not monitoring, rather than promoting and building up that industry locally. In most of this was all left in most of the countries to the public and the state broadcasters. And by the nature of that, what they were doing, they worked for many years with no competition. So they had no will to develop that market. And in other cases also, it was not within their mandate to develop the market. They were just doing, they wanted to do and continue what they have been doing. So the markets have not been developed locally. And therefore, the flurry of the media cities that came about in different parts of the Arab countries made it much easier for pan-Arab channels to exist. And by doing that, then who is the audience? Is it the local audience? It's clearly not the local audience of that particular media city, but it is the pan-Arab. Another issue that probably making this advertising market smaller than it should be is that always throughout all the platforms, we have almost the same content. Like what we deliver terrestrially is the same, what we deliver over satellite and on cable. And even the advertising is the same. So in other parts of the world, this is different, and the advertising on different platforms are not necessarily the same, so the market gets bigger. And unfortunately, in the Arab world, after the emergence of the satellite channels, almost the terrestrial channels, terrestrial television died in some countries, or in the best cases, it became the same as the satellite. So that all created a market that is not developed enough for it to grow as it did in other parts of the world. Thank you.
Mohammed.
Yeah, as a state broadcasters, we approached this, we have a pan-Arabic channel, Dubai TV, and we want to have some local presence at some markets such as Egypt. But commercially, it didn't make sense basically to open channels for Egypt or for UAE or for Saudi. But we have some strategic partners in Egypt and some other regions. So basically we resell our content to them, they take it at good value. So commercially it makes sense for us, there is no cost, and we work very closely with them as strategic partners. So our channels are there, pan-Arabic, and for those markets where people already exist with the brand and with the local market expertise, they take basically our content and they rebroadcast it in those markets, be it terrestrial, be it satellite.
This is very much a hallmark of your success at Do. I always felt that it was the willingness to partner, and Do has managed to develop a very successful IPTV platform, a very successful uplink facility and so forth through partnerships, through not having complete control of the train set, if you will.
Exactly.
I mean, are you planning to bring this kind of philosophy to DMI?
Exactly, and this is the way we approached it commercially. I don't want to go to, for example, Egypt and open a channel and start to market it and start, without any guarantee income from that, speaking about it from a commercial perspective. I have Dubai TV, pan-Arabic, but, having partners there and working out a win-win situation with my partners, selling them my best content or the best quality content that I produce or I buy, and they, market it in their local markets, be it terrestrial or satellite, and we take our money and we take the profit that we have to make.
You mentioned terrestrially there. I mean, would you prefer if the market was delivered content through IP or through terrestrial means rather than satellite? What for you is the best medium?
Well, both. Satellite is a necessity for us. as a pan-Arabic channel. You know, we would like Dubai TV to be there everywhere, but we are on IPTV as well, and we would like to be on the terrestrial TV. And when the terrestrial, maybe we are in discussion now with the TRA and some other broadcaster, national broadcaster, to launch the DVB-T. And when that will come, then that will open a room for other private channels to come into the terrestrial market of UAE. The cost is low to operate, and the rights are cheaper, so maybe then it will make sense for people to open a localized channel in UAE, maybe.
But with fibre already so, I mean, this is a question I have for both you and Dr. Riyad in a way, like with fibre already so advanced, is there a place for terrestrial television in this market now? I mean, it just does seem like it would open up advertising markets, but is it too late?
Victor?
Okay, well, it's definitely more difficult now with the presence, but if you look at the majority of viewers at this time, we would say that it is still linear traditional broadcasting, but by satellite, not by other means. And the fibers being connected to different parts of, in the GCC countries, I think maybe you're right that it is being, filling up the gaps. But are we going to reach 100% of the target viewers, even within the GCC states? I think we still have a long time to go. Maybe, yes, we will be able to reach the audience in the main cities, but in the rural cities, I think it will be a very long time from now. Even in the developed market, that's the case. But one would say and argue, is that do they matter or do they not matter? I would rather say, yes, they do matter, although to a less extent. Now, if we go to the other Arab countries, it will be even much longer that will take place, that the fiber will be fiber to home in most of the target audience. So I think we'll have to rely and live with linear broadcasting, with broadcasting in traditional manners, whether it being terrestrial or satellite, for some time to go before we see that everybody is connected to fiber.
But specifically DTTs.
But let me tell you, the DTT is an issue. Is not only a technological issue. It's something to do with also preserving local culture and values.
Yes.
And to develop terrestrial television, one of the added advantages is that you address the local immediate needs for the people, not on the level of one country, but also sometimes on the level of one city. And you cannot do this by satellite. It's difficult to address this. And when you do this, also you open many venues for local advertisers to do this, to advertise on these local channels. So from my side, as a regulator or as a government entity, I would like to see this terrestrial being developed more to develop the local talents, the local needs, and preserve the local value and culture.
I think that's in some ways consistent with what Nat was saying earlier on. Mohammed, is subscription television a niche business?
I'm a free-to-air channel. But,
this one,
I guess he meant me. The answer is yes for now, and I think the history in the Middle East showed that it is to some extent a niche market. But my feel is this ought to change, and it should change. We've been all hearing all day long about the channels being heavily dependent on advertisement. And I know there are 80% of the advertisement money is really shared among the major broadcasters. So no matter how this pie is going to grow, probably their share also will grow, and the other channels will not get much advertisement. So, and I know some some TV channels, they cannot make a decision without their advertisement agent saying yes or no, because he controls all of their income. My theory is that should change. There should be another kind of model, another kind of source of revenue for the broadcasters that allows them to grow. And having only dependency on advertisement is not enough. The other thing is when you're depending only on one source, you pretty much your destiny is controlled by whoever bringing you that money. The key here is how it should be implemented. It is not about just a pay TV in one form. I think in many parts of the world, pay TV in a more popular or a more cheaper form has succeeded. And people are willing to pay. And the reason for it is I see that the broadcasters are stuck between the rock and hard place because advertisement money is down and the other side, premium content is high in terms of cost. So how could they balance this equation? And we are demanding good quality content. So even though we're not paying, so it's just a bit awkward to see a model like this.
Well, it does seem like all the best stuff gets bought out for ludicrous amounts of money and makes it difficult for everybody else. Can you see a way that could change?
I think it will change. Eventually, somebody will come up with a model that will change it, because it cannot continue that way. It cannot continue just depending on one. I know what you're leading to, but I think it's for now. Somebody will have to come up with a model where
clearly
it will be good for.
There must be money coming from other sources, because just going back to that piece of paper I was holding up earlier on, that's 7 years of this industry, and what we've seen is more money being spent, presumably more losses coming along with that rather than less. So, back in 2005, people were saying something's got to happen. And here in 2012, we're saying something's got to happen. It seems like what's got to happen is we've got to spend more money.
We tend to take our time when we do something. Yes, but eventually it cannot. There is nothing that can continue grow forever.
Right.
There has to be a time where it's going to be stabilized or come down a little bit, or some merger acquisitions happen, things like that. But I am a very much advocate of having the broadcasters to have another source of revenue, a viewer-supported model. There are 55 million people watching TV, or some figures can go up to 80 million. What if each one of those paid 10 cents a month? It doesn't have to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It could be a very small amount, but because of the sheer number of viewers in the Middle East, I think we were talking about how we grow the pie. This is one model that can grow the pie by having a viewer-supported model.
Sorry, I think that was just...
No, there was some surveys that I was looking at which are very interesting when it comes to pay TV. And basically, there are a lot more people pirating the content, or not more, but almost half the people who say we do watch pay TV platforms, they're getting it through different sources other than a pure subscription, paying for it. Either they go to cafes or they get it through decoding cards. But what that indicates to me is that there's an appetite. There is an appetite for that.
The TV Connect event a couple of weeks ago, we learned that 90% of the traffic on the Do network is actually download traffic from torrents. So, and that's in the UAE. That's an astonishing statistic.
Yeah, so if half the people who admit to be watching pay TV are saying they're not getting it through a subscription or direct subscription, that means there's a huge appetite for it. But again, I go back to one point that I was saying before. This is all about quality. If your content is quality, then it is all about supply and demand. If it's sports or if it's high quality entertainment and it is provided through a pay TV, if this is what you need to do to get it, then people will pay for it.
But with premium sports changing hands for hundreds of billions of dollars, aren't they effectively removed from the game?
I don't think, but that's who's paying for that kind of money? That must be a different question. That's a whole different discussion as to.
But it has a relevance here, because what Mohammed's basically saying is, we need good quality content in order to it doesn't have to be incredibly expensive. It doesn't have to be like